Hi guys! When you have enough functional storage in your home, there are so many benefits. You'll be more organized, you'll be able to easily find things when you need them, you'll usually have less clutter around, your living space will feel more peaceful and you'll feel less stress, you'll save time and energy, and life flows more smoothly, and the benefits go on and on. So in this video, I'm going to share with you my top 11 tips for having enough functional storage in your home. So welcome back to the channel, and if you're new here, my name is Mika and I'm a writer, and I also own a small professional home organizing business. I'm writing a book series about how to have good vibes in your home, and I'm currently working on the decluttering book. As I write, I share some of what I've written for the week on this channel, and this week I wrote about the key elements to have good functional storage in your home. So getting right into it. The first point is to declutter. And this is kind of important to talk about whenever we talk about storage, but consider when was the last time that you did a thorough declutter. So I've worked in hundreds of homes helping to declutter and organize and optimize storage solutions, and I'd say that the phrase that I hear the most often before we start is, "I don't have enough storage space." And fair enough, because many of us have been there, and I've been there too. And I wouldn't have really thought so before I started working in homes, but now I would say that the overwhelming majority of homes that I work in, after we do a thorough declutter, all of a sudden the home has ample storage space. So it's interesting because there's basically stuff that we don't need, use, or even want taking up precious storage space, and then we think we need to spend time and money to create more storage, when it might be just as helpful to declutter. So before you put in additional storage solutions, unless there's a storage solution that you found that you really like and that you know that you want, consider decluttering first. Because you might find that you might not even need that extra storage, which is great because if you look at your home in terms of living space versus storage space, you may end up retaining more room for living space. And if you decide, hey, I'm going to do a thorough declutter, before you put in your new storage solutions, I'd recommend taking everything out of your closet or linen closet or drawers and then decluttering. And the reason for this is because the items that you actually need to declutter are usually hidden in the depths of your storage areas, or in the more hard to reach places taking up precious storage space. In some of the homes that I work in, when the storage spaces become full or dysfunctional, the most used possessions end up getting left out instead of getting put away. And sometimes those things are kind of like strewn about a room, or things get piled on top of furniture or on floors. And what has usually happened is that the storage spaces have become full, and that's why stuff gets left out. So sometimes the stuff doesn't have a home because there's not enough current storage space to create one, or it just takes too much effort to try to stuff the items back into their homes since there's not much space. When this happens, the person who lives there usually gets into this cycle of constantly scanning their environment for things to declutter, but they're basically scanning their most used possessions that are out and in their line of sight. But the real clutter culprits are the things that are taking up space deep inside of their closets and in other storage spaces. So the stuff that isn't providing value to you is usually the stuff that you haven't reached for in a long time. So if you take everything out and declutter it thoroughly, you might be amazed at how much storage space opens up and how much functionality gets restored, because you're letting go of what you don't need or use or love or even want, and opening up more storage space. So if you're working on a decluttering project, or you feel like you should probably declutter, there are a lot of videos on this channel that can help you through it. And if there's a particular question that you have, you can ask in the comments and I'll try to respond, or maybe even make a video about the subject. Number 2 is to follow the 2-8 storage principle. You may have heard of the 2-8 storage principle before, but if you haven't, it's a term coined by the designer Lu Wei, and she basically advises that about 20% of your possessions should be visible and about 80% of your possessions should be stored away and not visible. This is also similar to the Pareto principle, and I think that many of us naturally do this, like instinctively. What this does is it helps to reduce visual noise and helps to create a sense of calm and ease in a space. Because when there's too much visual noise, it can feel difficult to fully relax or feel at ease in a space. So consider keeping about 20% of your items out and about 80% tucked away. And that 20% of items that's visible, it could be functional decor such as plants or books, or basically any possessions that are out and visible in your space. Number 3 is to have a home for your items and the habit of putting things back. So a key to effective storage solutions is to have a designated home for each item or genre. And then you want to cultivate the habit of putting things back into their homes once you're finished using them. These two are a power combo for just keeping on top of keeping your home organized. When you're finding a home for your item, you ideally want to store like with like. So papers with other papers and books with other books, toiletries with other toiletries, pots and pans with other pots and pans, cutlery with other cutlery. And when I say cutlery with other cutlery, you might think, duh, but think of your other possessions in that way too. So a home for every item and store like with like. Although sometimes there might be some exceptions, like the book that you're currently reading goes on your nightstand or on a side table as opposed to the bookshelf. Or there's this guy that I recently worked with who keeps his toothbrush in the kitchen because him and his wife live in this really small space and he wakes up early while she doesn't have to. So he brushes his teeth in the kitchen. But anyways, like with like is a general rule, but there are always exceptions, and storing like with like should come pretty naturally. And if it doesn't, once you hear the rule, it will come pretty naturally. Number 4 is to store by accessibility and convenience. Consider how frequently you use something, and those frequently used items should be stored in the easiest to reach areas. So you make it very convenient for yourself if you keep your pots and pans near the stove as opposed to on the other side of the kitchen. And if you store your drinking glasses by the sink or wherever it is that you get your water from. Or if you store your most worn clothes in the most accessible areas of your closet. For example, if you wear socks every day but rarely wear a tie, then keep your socks where they are easy to see and reach, and then keep your ties in an area that's less prime real estate. And if you end up taking everything out to declutter and then you're putting everything back, then it's a good opportunity to put your most used items in prime areas so they have precedence and ease of access, and then put the things that you don't reach for that often in less priority or less accessible areas. There have been many times where I've been in homes and then there's this really nice, easy to reach drawer that's filled with things that are rarely ever used. And I think a common reason why is because priorities and lifestyles, they shift over time. So the person might have moved into a home and then organized his or her space according to accessibility and or convenience. Then years or even decades later, the person has still kept their things organized just as when they had first moved in, but their needs and priorities have changed. So once in a while, especially after life and lifestyle changes such as a growing family or even getting a new job, it's worth taking a look around to make sure that you're storing by accessibility and convenience for your current lifestyle. Small changes can make things more convenient and save time and energy, make your day go smoother, and compound to save you a lot of time over the course of the year. And I would even go so far as to say that small changes can totally brighten your day. Number 5 is to consider utilizing vertical spaces. There are cabinets and bookcases that utilize vertical spaces and can efficiently store a lot of items without taking up much floor space. Vertical space makes the most of available space in a room, and this can be a big problem solver for closets and small spaces. A lot of space can be saved, and I think just how much space can be saved can be underestimated. Like, it's really surprising sometimes. And if you want to keep the room feeling airy, a nice tip is to mount it a little bit off of the floor if it's safe and if your storage piece is not too heavy, or to choose something that has legs underneath. Storage units with legs or wall-mounted storage units that appear to float can be very attractive, and they appear visually light because of the space that's underneath. Also, lighter colors usually appear less visually heavy, but that also depends on what color walls that you have. Shelves can also be very helpful. Depending on your home, open shelving can be styled in a really cute way to display some of your favorite items or to add more character to your space. Shelves can be great for plants and books, dishes, pictures, or decorative pieces. I've seen some really great open shelving. And there's this show that I've been watching recently. I think this show's been out for a while, and I think it's called Nadia's Kitchen on Netflix. And oh my gosh, her kitchen is so cute. I love how she displayed her items in her kitchen on her open shelving. And then another kitchen that I really like is Gordon Ramsay's kitchen on one of his home cooking shows. It's in one of his houses, but I watch his show and I should be watching his cooking, but I'm constantly looking at how he organized and designed and decorated his kitchen. It's just all class and it looks so nice. But a caveat with open shelving is that too many open shelves can potentially start to create visual clutter. So it really depends on your space, and you'll want to trust your gut intuition on what feels right to you and what feels pleasing to you, and then have a balance between open and closed storage. Number 6 is to consider underutilized spaces. If you're trying to find additional storage space, then there might be underutilized and overlooked areas in your home that might be perfect for some extra storage. Some examples might be the spaces on the backs of doors. Sometimes there's space underneath stairs, the corners inside of closets, and again, that vertical space that we just talked about, you might be able to use. Also, consider if there's underutilized space in your existing furniture. An example of this might be, say if you buy a bookcase from IKEA, right? Like take the Billy bookcase for example. You can opt to buy separate extra shelves. Like maybe you just need 1 or 2 extra shelves to help maximize the storage space in your bookcase. Extra shelving is especially great if you're going to put doors on the bookcase, because then it won't look cluttered even if you have a lot of shelves. Then you have the added functionality without the visual noise. Anyways, it's worth thinking outside of the box and then taking a look around your home. And as kind of a side note, when you do create extra storage space, say on places like the back of a door, it's best not to create blockages. For example, if you use the space or like the area on the back of a door for storage, like say if you place hooks on the back of the door, then you want to make sure that you can still open the door all the way without the pathway being obstructed. So functionally, it just feels way nicer if you can just walk through without having things or the door even partially in the way. And then in terms of feng shui, the premise is that you want the energy in your home to be able to flow and meander freely and unobstructed. So it's best if all the pathways and walkways throughout your home have enough room and are unobstructed so that energy or chi can move freely. Basically, you don't want to obstruct the natural flow of energy through your home. And this will lead to a more optimal feeling or a good energy in your home. And it's also said that if there are blockages, then it could metaphorically translate to blockages in your life. So if you're walking through any of the walkways in your home and there's excess clutter or obstructions in your way, like cluttered hallways or doors that won't open all the way, then it might be best to fix that. And if you try it, it's interesting because the feeling in your space will probably feel different in a really good way. Number 7 is to use multifunctional furniture or furniture with storage. This is especially great for small spaces, but it's really great for any space. There are different kinds of furniture that double as storage, like ottomans with hidden compartments, bed frames with built-in drawers, couches with storage where you can put like blankets inside, or kitchen tables that have like storage inside or underneath, coffee tables with storage that also have that rising tabletop so that you can work or eat on it. And One of my clients who lived in this tiny space even had a bookcase that folded down into a table if guests came over. So there are various furniture options that also offer extra storage. Number 8 is customize according to your life. This can feel incredibly special. This will vary by individual and household, but I'll give you some examples. A few of my clients loved clothes, and so we made an entire closet out of an extra bedroom. That was great because that happened multiple times over the course of the last few years, and it's kind of cool because those women, they just love the clothes, shoes, and accessories, and then they happen to have that extra space, so it was just like a really pleasing use of space for them. And for children, we've created magical little areas that they have toy chests, and it makes them and their parents happy to put toys back and like tidy up. Also, if you love cooking, create a functional kitchen that's a joy to cook in and easy to grab things and put them back and is a pleasure to look at. If you love shoes, have a great shoe storage area or shoe rack where you can see your shoes and easily take care of them and reach for them. And if you love books, store them in a way that's pleasing to you so that when you go to reach for a book or put it back or just look through your books, it adds that extra special touch. Putting that little bit of extra thought and effort into certain storage solutions for the items that we use and enjoy often, it can go a long way in making your home feel customized to you and special. It can also really help to make the daily mundane task of tidying up and organizing just feel nicer. And number 9 is to consider aesthetics, functionality, and aesthetics. So this point is a little bit different from the previous point, but I think of a lot of things in terms of cost per use. So with storage, I think that it's worth spending the time to come up with a creative and aesthetically pleasing storage solution for your space, especially if it's part of your decor and then you have to look at it every day. There are so many beautiful and clever storage solutions. If you just Google IKEA hacks or scroll through Pinterest or YouTube, you can come up with idea inspirations for almost any storage conundrum. I also think because you see it on a daily basis, it's not necessary, but it might be even worth investing a little bit more into quality storage that you really like. It's completely up to the individual, but that's just how I feel about something that you have to look at every day that's going to take up space in your home and provide key functionality in your home. Although there's plenty of ways to make it aesthetically pleasing without spending too much, because there are so many hacks and creative solutions that you can put in place. And then there's secondhand furniture, and then also sales and good deals, and then a plethora of storage solutions. But definitely consider aesthetics, especially if it's in an area that you have to look at often. For example, to choose the colors and textures that you like. So functionality is number 1 and aesthetics is number 2, but both are so important when it's highly accessed and utilized in your living space. A good example might be cabinet doors. So I have a lot of books, and right now I have this shelf that holds a lot of them, but I currently live in this really small space, so I'm utilizing vertical storage instead of a traditional bookcase. The next place that I move into will probably be bigger, and I think that it would be so cool to have a wall of bookcases filled with books with glass cabinet doors and a little gold or brass light shining above them. Then there's still visibility to the books, and I love the feeling of being surrounded by books, but the glass makes it more even to the eye and subdues how visually noisy it could get. I've also seen a bunch of great IKEA hacks, both in person and online, and you can get peel and stick wallpaper or paint the dresser, for example, or glue rattan webbing on furniture. And there's just so many great ideas out there for beautiful storage, depending on what your beautiful is. Number 10 is to make things easy to see and store them in clear containers and bags. So my mom actually gave me this tip a long time ago, and she loves to store things in clear containers so that she can see what's inside. She loves clear boxes and clear bags and even clear makeup bags. and she even drinks her tea and coffee out of clear mugs. But it's actually a really great tip to store your items in clear containers because it makes it easy to see what's on the inside while still containing them. And I do this in my bathroom, and it just makes things infinitely easier because I can see what's inside of my storage areas at a glance. And sometimes I think those little plastic Ziploc bags, the sandwich bags, can be so useful to store small things. It's just like a ridiculously simple solution. But the last time that I used this with the client, we were separating cords. And so she had phone cords, computer cords, and then photography cords, I think. And so we separated the cords for the devices, and then we put them in 3 different Ziploc bags and then labeled them with the Sharpie. And then we put them in a basket. But sometimes those can come in really handy. Number 11 is don't fill your storage spaces to the brim. So you don't have to agree with me here, but I think that it's best to aim to fill storage spaces to about 70 to 80% full at a maximum so that you can spread stuff out. 70 to 80% isn't a steadfast rule, but it's just the sweet spot that I found. But do what's comfortable for you. And I think that the most important part of this rule of thumb is to not fill your storage spaces to the brim. So there are exceptions to this rule, like maybe you're renting a storage unit as you move overseas and you need to fill it to the brim, or you want to. But this rule of thumb is more for spaces that are utilized often, like closets or drawers or linen closets or medicine cabinets. It allows for items to have a bit of space and to be a little bit more spread out and organized. Like here's my medicine cabinet. It looks full because the stuff is spread out, but it's probably about 70 to 80% full, which allows me to have space between things. This allows for ease of access and ease of use and allows me to shuffle things around. It makes it more aesthetically pleasing and also makes organization so much easier. When I go to work in a client's home to help them declutter and they're dealing with clutter all around them, like I was talking about in the first point, the reason often stems back to how full their storage spaces have become, or they've become dysfunctional. So it's such a pain in the butt or time consuming to try to put things back into their homes when those designated homes are already too full that things just start getting left out. So you want your storage space to be functional and easy to use. And when they're 70 to 80% full, they become so easy to use and easy to organize, and it's just a pleasure because they're so functional. Our home shouldn't be a source of stress in our lives, and they should support us in our lifestyle, in our daily chores, and the things that we have to do. And we make it tremendously harder than it needs to be if we fill our storage spaces too full. Also, as we live our lives, life changes and we need to ebb and flow and grow with life and new chapters of our lives. So if we're mindful of the things that we bring in, hopefully we will own and use and take care of our things for a long time, and we won't need to declutter too much too often. But as we enter into new chapters of our lives, we'll have to declutter here and there to kind of let go of things that no longer provide value to us. It's kind of like pruning a tree, like letting go of the unnecessary so that we can flourish. Because life changes, we want our storage to allow for that. New things might occasionally come in and old things might occasionally go. And you just want to give yourself some room to grow and to allow for that flexibility. So I hope that you enjoyed this video and found it informative. If you did, could you please hit the like button, as it helps more people to find my channel and I'd really appreciate it. If you'd like to see more videos like this, please subscribe, and thank you so much for watching. See you in the next video.